I like explanations. As human beings, we want reasons. We want to know why. For example, once we get to a certain age, some of us look at obituaries. And if someone died at our age or younger, we want to know the reason. The world makes a little bit more sense if we know why. Then there was the horrific mass shooting in New Zealand. We want to know why. When we find out it was committed by an angry white guy who hates people with dark skin and from a different religion, at least we have a little sense of why it happened. There's the tragedy of the Binghamton high school students who were walking on a sidewalk and then were hit by a car, killing one, severely injuring the other. The explanation was a driver high on drugs. We want explanations. We want reasons. We want to know why. It's very human to want all that. But there's a problem. Even when we have an explanation, even when we know the reasons, the pain remains. The grief is still deep. The sorrow is still there. Explanations and reasons don't take away the hurt. The searing tragedy of the two girls from Binghamton is not taken away because we know how it happened. The New Zealand massacre is still a horror even if we know why the shooter did it. We still want the explanations, though. It's always been the human thing to want to know why. In our story from Luke's Gospel today, people come to Jesus looking for an explanation of a recent tragedy in the news. Pontius Pilate had killed a bunch of Galilean Jews while they were at worship, kind of like that terrorist from New Zealand. The people who came to Jesus looking for an answer seemed to want Jesus to say that they had it coming. There is an old strain of religious thought that says bad things happen because we have sinned and it's God's punishment. You can find this teaching in the Bible. But Jesus does not agree with it. He disagrees with the idea that those Galileans deserved what happened to them. And then Jesus mentioned another tragedy, this one an accident where people were killed by a falling tower. He rejects the idea that people deserved these bad things. And then he goes on to tell this parable about a fruitless tree and a gardener. The gardener urges for patience over punishment. Jesus does not follow that one strain of biblical teaching that when bad things happen, it's because people are being punished. Jesus holds patience above punishment. This is not the answer people seem to expect. Jesus teaches another way, and he lives another way. Jesus lived among us, and he loved us. He broke bread with outcasts and sinners. He healed the sick and brought good news to the poor. He wanted to draw everyone into his family. But he did not teach an answer to why bad things happen. We want the world to be fair. We want the world to make sense. But stuff happens that's not fair, and it doesn't make sense. What we need, really, is not an explanation. What we need are not reasons. What we need is help getting through. What we need is strength to go on. What we need, in a word, is love. When my best seminary friend died young, a nun told me, God must have wanted him more than we did. God must have wanted him more than we did? What a terrible thing to say. I told her so. I'm glad she never said that to my friend's widow. Explanations and reasons don't always help, and sometimes they even hurt. I have never appreciated it when a well-meaning person explains to me from a theological point of view why my daughter is profoundly disabled. Even a scientific answer might be true, that her autism is a genetic disorder, that her mental deficits are due to the fact that the umbilical cord wrapped around her neck during delivery and briefly starved her brain of oxygen. But knowing that doesn't help me at all. The answer is not what I need. The explanation is not what I need. What I need is strength, and what I need is love. My wife and I decided early on that we would not allow our daughter's disability to break us up, as so often happens with parents of profoundly disabled children. Instead, we committed more deeply to each other that we would get through this together. And we did. What gets human beings through these awful things that happen? Is it an answer, like the people wanted who asked Jesus about that tragedy? Is it an explanation so that the world will make a little more sense? I don't think so. I think what gets us through it all, through the grief, through the terrible times that all too often come to us, what gets us through it all is love. The love of our families, the love of our friends, the love of our God. That's what gets us through. That's what gives us the strength that we need. My wife's heart was deeply touched this past week when she saw a picture of something done in New Zealand in response to that shooting. You've seen those shrines that break out after a tragedy like that on sidewalks, lots of flowers, lots of candles, lots of handwritten notes. Well, my wife in the news saw a hand-lettered sign. And this is what that sign said. I will watch while you pray. I will watch while you pray. Whoever made that sign was not a member of the same religion as those who were attacked. Maybe whoever made that sign was not religious at all. But she or he was human and was showing compassion. The message of that handwritten sign is that we are all in this together. And when you hurt, I hurt. The only thing that will get us through is love. We don't always get the explanations and the reasons we want, but that's not what's going to get us through anyway. What gets us through always is love. Amen.